Before I ever picked up a bass, I was a little kid in Cleveland, lying in bed, listening to the radio I kept next to me. It was a toy car that was actually a radio, a maroon Chevy Impala with black dials on the bottom. And I remember one night, Good Vibrations came on. And when it got to that part where, it gets quiet before the big finale, I could hear the bass pumping out those quarter notes, steady and perfect. I didn't know what it was, but I liked it. That's where my story begins. Hi, I'm John Liebman, and I help people over 50, and a lot of times people even older than over 50, who want to play bass and finally have fun with it. Welcome to Tales from the Pit and Beyond, real stories from my years as a working bass player, always with a point or a punchline. Now, I'm the youngest of four, two older sisters and a brother, and we're all pretty close in age. Growing up, the house was always buzzing. Somebody was talking, somebody was laughing, somebody was playing records. My dad was a rock and roll DJ in Cleveland back in the 50s and 60s. So music wasn't just something we listened to, it was part of our daily life. I remember hearing songs from the Beatles, the Beach Boys, Stevie Wonder, Johnny Rivers, the Hollies, the Four Tops, the Supremes, Donovan, all those great records. Not just on the radio, but also on the hi-fi we had in the living room. Remember those? My brother and I shared a room, and we used to quiz each other on the top 22 songs of the week from the guide the radio station used to put out. Why it was 22, I don't know. But by the time I was 6, I knew every one of them. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was an education, the best kind you could ask for. Music wasn't yet something I studied. It was something I absorbed. I remember analyzing the songs I was hearing. I noticed they all seemed to be formatted in pretty much the same way. They'd start with someone singing something, usually after an intro. Then they'd sing it again, this time with different words. And after that, there'd be a different part, followed by a section I just called music in the middle, which was how I referred to the instrumental part. And after that, they'd go back to the first part. I was about 6 when I figured that out. And I remember when Yesterday came out, and I asked my dad if there might be an extra copy of the record at the radio station that he could bring home. And well, for whatever reason, maybe it hadn't been released yet as a single, I don't know, but he brought home the LP. Now the problem was, I didn't really know how to read, but I knew how to work the hi-fi. Now, I remember so vividly sitting on the floor of our living room on the green carpeting in front of the hi-fi, moving the tone arm up and down between the grooves, trying to find Yesterday. It didn't take me too long, but I found it. And when I did, I just sat there and listened, completely mesmerized. My dad didn't just play the music on the radio. He took us to see it performed live. I still remember those first concerts, the Dave Clark 5, the Lovin' Spoonful, the Association. Those were the ones that really got things started. And I remember sitting at some concert one time, and I asked my mom, I said, what did he say this song is called? And she said, Papa got a brand new bag. A new bag? And then I remember thinking, oh, okay. And then the biggest show of all, hands down, the Beatles. It was at Municipal Stadium in Cleveland where the Browns played and the Indians played. So many people. Now, I may have only been 6, but I knew exactly where I was. I knew who they were. I knew every song. And I remember one of my sisters yelling, Ringo, Ringo! Things did get a little bit out of hand with the crowd. I couldn't understand why people were running down onto the field, and it was kind of scary. And through my innocent 6-year-old view of the world, I remember thinking, boy, it's a good thing all those policemen just happened to be here. I remember the day we got our piano. and we all had fun fooling around on it, just banging out notes, seeing what sounds we could make. And I remember one Saturday morning, my brother and I were lying in our beds, and he said to me, "Hey, John, go like this. When I was young, I never needed help in any way." And I sang it, and over that he sang, "When I was younger, so much younger than today." He just figured it out in his head, just from hearing it on the radio. And we were still in Cleveland, so he couldn't have been any older than 10, and I couldn't have been any older than 6. This is how I grew up. And not long after that, we moved to Detroit in 1967. My dad was among the pioneers of the 2-man morning shows on the radio. Now, Dad and his partner, Harry, were really popular in Cleveland, so the network people came and made them an offer they couldn't refuse, to move the show to Detroit. It must have been a pretty good deal, because we packed up and moved to Detroit in January, right in the middle of the school year. And it was such an exciting time. And then, by incredible, unbelievable coincidence, the very week we moved to Detroit, Mitch Ryder moved into a house right down the street from us. For a kid already obsessed with music, that was about as mind-blowing as it gets. And I remember going with my brother and my cousin, who was visiting from Toronto one time, and knocking on Mitch's door. Now, I don't remember a whole lot about what was said, but I remember Mitch was pretty cool. And I remember seeing a set of drums down in his basement, and that kind of stuff just used to get me so excited. The Monkees were really popular at that time. We used to watch their TV show every week, and I can still picture the 4 of us, me and my siblings, one Sunday morning in the den playing Monkees records in our then mostly unfurnished new house. I don't even think my parents were home. Just 4 kids in a new city surrounded by music. Looking back, I think that's when I started to feel like music wasn't just something I listened to anymore. It was something I was a part of. Now, there's a lot more to the story, like when I started learning to play, and the times I used to watch and listen to my brother's jam sessions and band rehearsals in the basement, the bands we were in together, some of the records we did, studying music in school, going on the road, all the trouble I used to get myself into. Stories I'll just tease for now. I just wanted to give you a little prequel, a look at what led up to everything that came later. Things I never would have expected in a million years. So that's a little bit of how it all started for me. Such a cool way to grow up, and I'm so thankful for all of it. Now, I don't know what your story is. Maybe it's similar to mine, maybe it's completely different. But I bet, one way or another, music has been part of your life too. Maybe it was the bands you grew up listening to, the ones you sang along with in the car, or played on that record player in your room. Whatever it was, it's still there. It's still inside you. And here's the thing. It's never too late to make it part of your life again. You don't have to have been in the middle of it in the same way I was in order to feel it, to understand it, and to play it. If you've ever thought about learning to make music, I can tell you from experience, it's one of the most rewarding things you'll ever do. I think we'll leave things here for now, but there's plenty more to come. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, make sure to take care of that right now. Trust me, you don't want to miss any of this stuff. It's all true. I couldn't make this stuff up. So thanks for hanging out with me today. I look forward to seeing you back here next week, same time, same place, with another edition of Tales from the Pit and Beyond, real stories from my years as a working bass player, always with a point or a punchline. In the meantime, I'm John Liebman. Let's play bass.